So, what is the advice that you'd give to yourself if you had to go back and speak to your younger self before even working in all the other industries? What advice would you have given yourself knowing what you know now?
I would have hired a coach earlier.
Ooh, love that.
I feel like I can do everything on my own. I can do my own research. I can ask people. That's all great. But what really helped me quantum leap was hiring mentorship, a coach, someone who had known it and knows about career, knows about all the things, and guided me towards what, I needed to do. I did it a little later in my journey. I did it like year 2. So it was still very helpful, but I had to do a lot of work on my own in the beginning. And so I think that would have actually been maybe the first thing I would have done, had a coach. And I hired a coach for a year, and it was really, really time consuming, but really, really, really effective. And so that's honestly what I would recommend. If you want to be quicker, if you want to like quantum leap that timeline.
Mm-hmm. No, I agreed. I couldn't agree more. I've spoken on numerous other podcasts about, peer groups, mentorship, coaches, even online downloadable courses that people have, like smaller courses depending on your budget, but something that will take you from stuck to, a little bit further in your journey. And as you earn more, you can invest in different coaches, and it's imperative. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's episode, we have Dani with us, and she is really amazing. I'm going to have her jump into her story, kind of start at the beginning of her entrepreneurship journey.
Hi, Kelsey. Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, so my name is Dani Margeaux. I am an Akashic Records reader, Reiki master and teacher, entrepreneur, spiritual mentor, and a lover of life. And so what I did to transition from working from my 9 to 5 to becoming an entrepreneur is probably like a 7 to 10 year journey. And so I definitely want to give you all the insight of how to maybe quantum leap that timeline for yourself. I was working in the hearing aid industry, so I was selling hearing aids to the geriatric population, and it was fulfilling. It felt like, these grandmas and grandpas were able to communicate with their families again and be able to hear birds chirping and sounds that they hadn't heard in a long time. But I felt like something was still missing, and that was what motivated me to step into the entrepreneur life.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I wasn't able to find a job that fit me in my expansiveness and multidimensionality. I started taking other jobs as like a property manager or finance department in the city, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to change jobs in order to find, the career that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know that there wasn't a job out there that really existed in which I would thrive in. And so I learned I had to create one on my own. And it has been one of the most challenging yet fulfilling journeys. And if you want to go into like kind of the details, a lot of YouTube was helpful. And having friends who I only had maybe one friend who went into this before me, so I didn't know anything, like how to start an LLC, how to have all the automations, email campaigns, journeys, like the web, how to create a website. All this was like, I didn't know any of it. And it was really beautiful because what I did was I led with curiosity. Wherever I felt inspired that day, I would meditate and tune into whatever was wanting to come through. And that is kind of what has guided me through my journey. And what really opened me up to this entrepreneur world is Reiki. And so, if your listeners aren't sure what Reiki is, it's universal life force energy. It stems from the energy that stems through all living things. And the goal of Reiki is to align the person who's receiving it to their natural energy force within them and allow it to flow, throughout all areas of your body. And what I learned was I had a lot of conditioning and limiting beliefs and fears of stepping into a leadership role myself, into starting my own business and believing I can succeed instead of fail, and being kind of like this trailblazer for this industry that I had never seen, before me. And what I can say is what really guided me was the Akashic Records and my meditation journey. Tuning in to my higher self every day, tuning in to whoever you believe in of the higher good, right? God, universe, source, whatever that is, and just really finding peace and spaciousness within the fear, within the judgment, within
Mm-hmm.
all of that, and really finding that peace and clarity. And my motivation to be fulfilled surpassed all the limiting beliefs and fears and conditioning. So for me, I was lucky that I felt that like I'm going to find it. I'm going to run to the end of the earth until I I figure out what this is. And along the journey, it was finding out that actually, it's removing, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurship, you're working on your own. No one
Mm-hmm.
really cares about what you do more than you do.
Right.
If you succeed or fail, it's about you, whatever belief you have within yourself, and it's about uncovering all those truths that you might have been taught before the age of 7 and realizing, no, I'm going to awaken and do things differently and be different. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey.
I have so much to ask. I mean, this is awesome. So, did you start the journey of self discovery before your entrepreneurial journey, or was that something you discovered after?
Yes, I just discovered it before. It was as if I had a really fulfilling life. I had the boyfriend, I had just bought the condo. I think I was like 27, which I think is like the dark night of the soul in astrology, where people, decide that they're everything out the window, whatever they believed in, and they're stepping into this like new identity. And that was kind of what I was going through. I was realizing that there was more to what I was doing every day, and there was more to this like third dimensional waking up, going to work for someone else, coming home, working out, maybe hanging out with your family, cooking dinner, and then going to sleep and doing it again.
Mm.
And so that was what stemmed my awakening into there has to be something different
Mhm.
and there has to be something more. And so I spent about 4 years job hunting or, searching, thinking that my fulfillment was tied to my career.
Mm.
And that is what I started before I started entrepreneurship.
Wow. Okay, take us into it. So, you're trying to figure it out. You think that it may be tied to a job. Like, where does this self discovery come from? So,
Yeah, and I think what's so beautiful, I hired a life coach during this transition. So I went from 10 years, almost a decade in the hearing aid industry, and then the pandemic hit that I think like my 10th year, and a lot of, medical facilities for the geriatric they were the highest risk. So a lot of them were closing down, and that was my company that I was working for. And so I actually took a little break, and that's when I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to maybe find something else. And so I hired a career coach, and she was wonderful. She was like, okay, what interests you? And I was like, wine. I love drinking wine. Let's do something there. And she really held my hand and was like, well, you haven't done anything in 10 years. And so you're going to have to start something new. And so that was the first ego death. Like, oh, I'm already, like area manager at, this industry for 10 years. I'm a master within this industry, but now to start something new, I was getting connections. I was being told to reach out to people who I might know who are in that industry to just, chat with them, talk to them, how I can get into that network. And I was learning that in order, if you don't have restaurant industry or restaurant experience or wine or any kind of alcohol experience, you can't really get into that industry without like starting from the bottom. And that was not something I was willing to compromise. And so that was a part of like the first awakening of like, is it is it because I don't feel worthy to be this higher level in this new industry, or what is it that I am fearing from starting from the bottom? And so that was the first step. And then after that, I was like, okay, let me just try to find another job. Maybe that will be good. And that's when I started working for the city of Manhattan Beach in the finance department. And I was in a little cubicle. And some people really thrive in that industry. Like, you're set after, you retire, and it's so wonderful. And they have activities that you can go on the beach during lunch and play volleyball. It was wonderful. But I just was like, this numbers all day for like 10 hours, I realized was not it. And I, when you're on the right path, when things are divinely synchronistic. And I just had an intuitive thought one day, like maybe November, and I had already gave my notice. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. And an intuitive hit just came like, hey, reach out to this person that you used to go to college with like over 10 years ago. And I remember seeing that she was like in the real estate industry. And so I was like, okay. So I messaged her, and I do have a broker's license. And so I was like, oh, let me just see if she has anything available. The next week I was in for an interview, and I had another job. So I was like, great, let's try this. Let's figure this out. So it felt like, oh, I'm doing all the right things, and if there was an industry out there, that was, I guess, normal. I think, real estate management, I think probably would be the one for me, but it was just very high stress. It was very nonstop. And so there was no space for spaciousness or being. It was all responding to this plumbing leak, responding to, this contract that needed to be signed. And so at that point was when I had discovered Reiki, and someone, I think it was a podcast or something, that I was like, this is the way to the next step. And that was a beautiful journey. It was a 6-month journey. I was doing that alongside the real estate job at that time. And after 6 months, that's when I was like, I gave it up. I gave up the job. I gave it up after a year. And I was like, I'm going full in on myself.
Wow.
And that was probably the scariest yet most fulfilling thing. I was so excited to step into this new role, but it was scary because I was not going to have an income. And so I was aware. I was like, I had savings, and I started giving free readings. I started getting into the Akashic Records. Reiki led me to a podcast, which led me to getting trained in the Akashic Records. So at this time, I was like, had the Akashic Records and Reiki, and then I was quitting my job. Wow. And I was giving free readings, and I was like, there's something here. I was changing people's lives. People were like connecting to part of their soul. And I feel like 90% of my clients were like crying and just feeling validated and seen, maybe for the first time. And that's when I was like, this is life-changing. This isn't something that you can see, like in the physical, like you're getting productive results, or you're getting, this like tangible thing, but the person was feeling better. They were feeling more clear. They were feeling more connected to themselves, so that they can move forward in alignment with their soul's purpose and their mission. And so that was my hop into, okay, now I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Like, what do I do next?
Wow. Wow. That is like a crazy journey. Okay. Explain to us a little bit about the Akashic Records. Like, how does it work?
Yes. I think the Akashic Records finds you. I will preface this, because if anyone's listening to this might be your call to either learn or just go on YouTube and find a guided meditation. But the Akashic Records are the records of all souls that ever existed, past, present, future. It is the universal wisdom that is contained within this, if you want to conceptualize it, cosmic library. And it is a multidimensional space where literally every question you can ever ask exists. And it's really beautiful, because I feel like it found me right when I finished my Reiki journey. I heard it on a podcast, and then one of my clients, or one of my tenants, showed me a book while I was at our house once. And I had never heard this word before, ever. And in Sanskrit, it means ethos, or sky, which is so beautiful. And so I knew, okay, this is coming into my awareness 2 times already. Let me do some research. So I was like on Instagram just searching, and I found this wonderful woman who was doing them for free, and she was kind of practicing with them. And right away she was like, you need to open the records. That was all I needed. That
Wow.
week I searched for a trainer, and within 4 months I was like practicing and giving free readings. And so I feel like just that long 4-year search beforehand made me just ready for
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I didn't have anything kind of like doubting, I didn't have that self-doubt. I was like, I'm just going to do it and let's just see.
Wow. So what did it open up for you? Like, did it basically say the journey you're on is the best? Like, how did it help you on your journey?
Yes. So Akashic Records, when you enter, you have to be in a really still state. So I start with meditation. And so if you haven't meditated before, I would say that would probably be the first step. And I had never meditated before. So for me to bring that level of stillness into my life was already profound,
Mm-hmm.
compared to this like over masculine go, go, go energy that I had been previously in. And so it brought stillness. It brought me a level of routine in which I wanted to do this every day. I wanted to be in this state where I felt connected, I felt safe, and I felt calm, and I felt peaceful. And so what I do is I go into the records and I connect with my higher self or any ascended masters, higher vibrational beings, or spirit guides that want to come forward. And when I first started my journey, only one spirit guide came forward, and his name was Alfie. And he was just this like radiant light being. And it was really cool. I worked with him for like 6 months, and I would just go up and I would ask him a question, and then he would give me an answer. And I started with healing parts of myself, is how I started the first 6 months. I didn't really do anything to move forward. It was more like, why can't I feel like, why don't I feel worthy of having my own business and being successful? Why don't I feel worthy of making money on my own? Why do I not feel like I'm enough for love? Why do I feel not safe, with these friendships? Why do I feel like I can't receive love, but I can give love, unconditionally? Why do I fear speaking my truth in some situations? Why do I feel, these are the questions that I was asking
Oh, wow.
to understand myself more, and why I was maybe blocking myself in situations of my life. And so the first 6 months started with the healing. And as you spend more time in that energy and the frequency of the Akashic Records, the more it expands for you, the more you increase your vibration in alignment to divine source, God energy, and the more clarity comes to you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. I love this. I love this. How can entrepreneurs that are basically starting their journey or maybe in the middle of their journey, but they're feeling confused, frustrated, overwhelmed, they don't know if the business they're doing is the right business, but they want to ask somebody and they've already asked everyone they can, right? But they want to tap into themselves. What would you recommend for them?
Yes, I love this because your specific soul frequency, the vibration in which you live at, the gift that you have to inspire others around you is unique to yourself. So if you are asking and reaching out to everything else and everyone else and seeing how everyone else is doing it, it will bring you a level of success. But the way you will skyrocket is reaching in and looking at your own soul frequency and looking at the gifts that you have to offer. So my advice would be, if you don't have a meditation practice, to start one. And if you are kind of dysregulated, like a lot of anxiety, a lot of dysregulation within the body, I would even start a little further and start with that. And you can do this with psychotherapists, energy work, internal family systems. There's a lot of somatic breath work could be really help, like regulating the nervous system so that you can feel safe within your body, so you can feel safe with stillness. So then the next
Mm.
step would be bringing in that stillness through meditation. And Akashic Records are beautiful. And that's something that if you want to tap into now, go for it. And you can either find there's several free YouTube, Akashic Records things, which are so beautiful. You can get trained or simply just meditate and connect to your heart. So the mind and the heart, when you have mind-heart coherence, there's this beautiful logical yet abundant, loving inspiration. And what I would say is if there's any questions that you have, take a moment to tune into that part of your heart, that beautiful green ray chakra, and ask the question, where does my business want to go? What does it want to share with people? What is its message? Who does it want to serve? And really go from there. Okay, a couple things are coming through. My complete business is completely channeled. So from the colors of the branding to what readings and like the format of everything is completely channeled. I tune in typically, the beginning of the year, and I'm like, okay, what wants to come through every month? And then every month and every week I'll tune in and be like, well, where does the energy of my business want to go this week? And what does the collective need to hear? And so I think it's really beautiful because oftentimes we're like, we have to do everything ourselves. Like, oh, I have to do this. But actually, when you realize that you are serving this bigger purpose and this bigger collective mission, you can connect to that part of you, God consciousness, universe, source, whoever you believe in, and be a beautiful vessel for what wants to come through. And I think it's so beautiful.
Oh, when you speak about it, it sounds so beautiful. Like there are a couple of things that are present for me too, right? So in terms of being still, it's very hard for people to be still. And the fact that you're like, okay, maybe they should clear it energetically. Is that something that you do? Or is that something you send them to someone else first or tell them to look it up first and then say, hey, come to me after?
All the above. So I do that as well. And several people do that. And I love it because I feel like there's so many beautiful light workers out there. And when you are drawn to someone with curiosity, typically their energy is meant to inspire you or help you. But also there's so many people out there who can help you do that. And so for me, I do have through my empowerment coaching, I believe trusting yourself is like the most important tool. If you go into the records and you're meditating, and let's say you're clairvoyant and you start seeing images, but you don't trust yourself or trust what you see is true, then you're not moving the needle forward productively because you're in disbelief. And so with empowerment coaching, it's like empowering you to trust what you see and trust what you feel within yourself. And so I was taught by a psychotherapist with internal family systems, and I infused that into my like energy and somatic healing to help reprogram the subconscious thoughts on a mental, behavioral, unconscious, emotional, and conscious level in order for you to move into clarity and love instead of being stuck in like the fear and judgment. But several coaches do this, somatically, where they tune into the sensation. Because, for example, like if you're anxious, and for me, I feel it in my chest. I feel it kind of like heating up. I feel it fluttering. And then my mind will catch the narrative of the anxiety, like, oh, I have too much going on, then I'm not going to be able to do it. And then if I do it, I'm not going to do it good enough. And then maybe I might fail, all the things that are going in. And so then I'm now feeling the increase of that sensation in my body. So what I do is I help, whether it's from a mental level, diagnose and get to the deeper desire of the narrative. And then from a somatic energetic level, I help tune you into that part of that sensation that, let's say if you were to mute the narrative, what are you feeling, right? It's just the sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's bringing awareness to the mental level and the physical level, and being able to, so that you have the resources to process this, if this were to come up in the future.
Oh, wow. Awesome. And how is this transforming your business now that you're like pretty much in flow and in tune and listening to what you're supposed to be doing and living in your purpose?
For me, it means having balance, harmony, and inner peace within self and business. And so it was redefining what success means to me. It doesn't mean that I'm like not wanting to make more money in the future and expanding later, but in this moment right now, this is where I am. And I am completely happy, completely fulfilled, and completely at peace. And I hope and wish that for every single person. And what brought this thinking forward was a friend who actually was I guess you could say she was ahead of me through the entrepreneurship journey. She already had her website out. She already had, some abilities, and she kind of stopped and she started focusing on other things. And then I, did these 3 years of, expanding and opening my business and all the beautiful things. And then she saw my Instagram one day and messaged me, was like, how do you overcome the imposter syndrome and the resistance to posting and selling and all the things? And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have that anymore. Like that feeling like I am not good enough compared to other people, or comparing myself to other people, or feeling like I'm not the person who can share this wisdom, or all those fears, or perfectionism or people pleasing, whatever those limiting beliefs are, because I have intentionally worked on them, and I have intentionally transmuted that through, instead of resistance, through acceptance and love and compassion and forgiveness for myself for feeling those things. And when you do that, when you surrender to the feeling instead of resisting, ironically, you push through it. And it's a really beautiful place to be in.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. For those who don't know about transmuting, can you explain a little bit about what that is and how that works?
Yes. So the way I was trained, first, I'll start with this, is let's just say perfectionism. This topic comes up often with my clients. And so that is, let's say, a block in your life, right? Like that is blocking you from doing something else. This is blocking you. And so if you go to the deeper desire of what perfectionism is, often it's like, I want everything to be perfect because I don't want others to criticize me,
Mhm.
or I don't want to fail. And so when you move into that, instead of resisting the perfectionism, so instead of like, oh, this is making me blocked, I'm going to try to go above it and just try to do it anyways. And like, it's very, it's contractual. You feel it in your body. So with transmuting it, what you're doing is you're allowing that resistance, or that, sorry, not the resistance. You are allowing the perfectionist to be there. And then you're just tuning into it. And you're like, you know what? As an energetic sensation, or however it's coming up, or a narrative in your mind, you're accepting it, allowing it to be there without judgment. And this is part of the reprogramming of your subconscious. This isn't done in one session, but it is a beautiful methodology. And so you bring compassion, forgiveness, and acceptance to that block, which is the perfectionism. Then you offer that part of you forgiveness. So I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that perfectionism is holding me back. Actually, it was just trying to serve me. It was trying for me to do everything so clearly and correctly so that it can, be out in the world more beautifully. Actually, that was what perfectionism was actually doing for me,
Wow.
and so then you move into, after acceptance is aligned action. And so from there, you're seeing that maybe the perfectionism is still there, but you're seeing that it's trying to serve you, and that it's not actually a block, because you've already rewired this narrative in your mind. And you're like, okay, how can I use this energy now to move forward and create more abundance? And so you see it, and now maybe when you're looking over things, you're like, okay, this is great. I can work on it more, but I know that part of me just wants it to be perfect, and I'm happy with how this looks. And if there's a mistake, that's my humanness, and I'm okay with that. And it's accepting that part of you. And so
Mhm.
transmuting it is reprogramming that narrative, or reprogramming it from a subconscious neural pathway way, but then also energetically within your body.
Mhm. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, I know we spoke about in the beginning taking our listeners from where they are to where they need to be, right? Making that process shorter. Can we dive into that?
Yes, I would love to create like some kind of PDF that tells everyone, like you go to, like, so I'm in California, and LLC taxes are like $800, but something that just tells people, okay, this is the LLC form. This is how you do it. You have to contact the Secretary of State to connect it, especially on your tax forms. But what I did was YouTube. And I know this is so silly, but
No, it
um,
is.
yeah, like my LLC, I literally Googled a California LLC, someone who had really great reviews, and they walk you through the website. They walk you through, this is what you fill out, this is where you go. And it was wonderful. And I did it. And then, of course, I hired a tax person later to, verify all the things when it was time to do taxes a year later. But don't be scared to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
From other entrepreneurs. Networking is going to be one of the most powerful tools that you can use because someone's already done it and it's like silver platter here and it's like, here, take it, So YouTube, networking with people, maybe that you haven't reached out to, but that inspire you, sitting
Mm-hmm.
down with calls with them. And this is part of that like expansive out of the comfort zone,
Yep.
energy that can be really powerful. But yeah, I would love to, create something like that. And I'm sure someone has something like that where there's like a rubric of like, make sure you cover all your bases. But in terms of just even podcasting, I'm sure you were like having to research what best platform to use and what
Yep.
best RRS and editing platform, and so that's something I also, use YouTube with to research.
No, it's so important, aspiring entrepreneurs, middle of journey, because every stage of it looks different. And I want entrepreneurs to really understand this, that every part of your journey is going to look different when you're making 0 to 1,000 to 10 to 100. Everybody's journey looks different, but it's pretty much the same at each stage. When you get to a new stage that you've never been before, you need to research, look it up, ask someone. Mentorship, mindset, they're really the key components every stage of the game.
Yeah, I agree. And I have one like little bit of advice for anyone who is maybe in the beginning or middle. You're exactly where you're meant to be, and what you're learning right now will help you create the mastery that you are creating. Because I feel like if I had learned that advice in the beginning, I wouldn't have felt so like I have to do this now. I have to rush this. And I didn't really get to experience that journey because where you're at right now, you will never be there again. And if you can see it from that perspective, I feel like it's really beautiful.
Oh, I love that. So, what is the advice that you'd give to yourself if you had to go back and speak to your younger self before even working in all the other industries? What advice would you have given yourself knowing what you know now?
I would have hired a coach earlier.
Oh, love that.
I feel like I can do everything on my own. I can do my own research. I can ask people. That's all great. But what really helped me quantum leap was hiring mentorship, a coach, someone who had known it and knows about career, knows about all the things, and guided me towards what, I needed to do. I did it a little later in my journey. I did it like year 2. So it was still very helpful, but I had to do a lot of work on my own in the beginning. And so I think that would have actually been maybe the first thing I would have done, had a coach. And I hired a coach for a year, and it was really, really time consuming, but really, really, really effective. And so that's honestly what I would recommend. If you want to be quicker, if you want to like quantum leap that timeline.
Hmm. No, I agreed. I couldn't agree more. I've spoken on numerous other ones, podcasts about, you know, peer groups, mentorship, coaches, even online downloadable courses that people have, like smaller courses depending on your budget, but something that will take you from stuck to, a little bit further in your journey. And as you earn more, you can invest in different coaches, and it's imperative.
I agree. And I know there can be a lot of information out
Mhm.
there. And so this can be part of like your practice of stepping into your entrepreneurship, but also connecting to yourself and the power you have within. And so something that I like to do is if someone really inspires me or I'm really drawn to them, there's something medicine that they have for me. And so I'll look through, what they have. And maybe often they have a free downloadable PDF or something. But if you are just kind of on Yelp or something and researching, tune in to each name and just feel like say the name, close your eyes, and then does your body like expand? Do you feel lighter? Or does it kind of contract and you don't feel good? And that's a really good way to see if your body's like receptive to that person that is meant to, help you.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Uh, that's important. Like all the different tips to really listen to yourself. And for me, right, there are oftentimes things that come up and I hear the voice say, do this, and I ignore it. What is that?
So that little voice inside you, what I think it is, it's like divine guidance. So whether that is like a future version of you, or that's a spirit guide, or, God consciousness, whatever, whoever that message is coming from, it is of a divine source. It is of something maybe outside of you or like above you, right? Higher frequency. So for me, when I receive a message, I'll write it down. I have a little notebook, and it doesn't mean I can get to it right away. Like, for example, I'm working right now on a multidimensional guide and how to be human while like connecting to all the things and, frequencies, etc. But like, yeah, that message came through a month ago. It likely won't be out for 6 months, and it's giving yourself grace that you don't have to do everything right now, that you are listening. And then if that is something that's like really inspiring and you're like, oh, I want to work on that right now, then tune in again to your guides and just be like, okay, I received this message. Like, what do I need to do next? What's my next intelligent step? Because sometimes you feel like, oh, I have to have the whole picture in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like I trust the universe that they're going to put in front of me what needs to be done. Just what's the next step I need to do?
Wow. And how long do you typically meditate for? So,
Yeah, so my meditation practice is quite rigorous. So I will do anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours.
wow. A day?
um like 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
So not, yeah, but I would say if you're first starting, I was doing like a timer for 20 minutes and I would get to like 10 to 15 minutes. And so like something manageable, and I would just make sure to do it in the morning before I went to work, because I feel like oftentimes throughout the day, then you're like catching up on things and it can be more challenging. And yeah, so start with like something small. And there's beautiful, meditations on YouTube or Spotify or podcasts. And then build that muscle, because it's a different kind of muscle. Like kind of like when you're going to the gym and you're starting to do like bicep curls or shoulder presses, and you can only, let's say, start with like 5 pounds. And then, over time you're going to 10, 20 pounds. It's similar. This is a different channel you haven't used before. So start with 5 minutes and then move up to 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And like my mentor, I remember when I went to her, she was like, oh yeah, I was in the records for like 8 hours on Saturday. I was like, oh wow. Okay, so yeah, I've never done that. That's a lot, but whatever works for you is correct.
And like working towards it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So walk us through how you balance, or how someone should balance both, because it's a little bit different, religion, spirituality is a little bit different, right? When it comes on to fitting in, integrating with day-to-day life, and you know what I mean? Like how would someone navigate that space?
So from moving from the masculine, like overproductive, overdoing, over, go energy, to moving into like the divine feminine of being okay being, really, really helped me during the pandemic, where there was literally nothing you could do. And so it's like, if I judge myself for doing nothing, then I wouldn't enjoy that time. And so I feel like you can start with maybe even doing some self-care things, or things that just really bring you joy. Like for me, it's reading a book in bed for like 6 hours once a month. And it's like, it feels like it's a waste of time, but it brings me so much joy. And so it's working around the judgment around just doing things that fill you. Because what is this life meant for, right? To like just really bring yourself joy. And if you're struggling doing that, you can do I have a notebook where I'll schedule like 3 hours once a week for like me time. So I'll block it off in my calendar. I won't take readings. And so it's kind of like a masculine way, structured way of giving myself me time. And then that day I'm like, what do I want to do?
I love that.
I'll take a bath, I'll meditate. And so like creating structure, freedom within structure can be really helpful.
Oh, I really, really, really like that idea. You hear, everyone? Freedom within structure, because I feel like when you're on this journey of being an entrepreneur, you're always on go, because you're always like, okay, I need to do this. I need to service a client. I need to do all these things. Right. So it does become overwhelming. Right.
It's also like a never-ending to-do list. Like, you can always be working on more,
Yeah.
especially as an entrepreneur. So it's coming to the sense that what's your why? Why are you being an entrepreneur? For me, it was to be more fulfilled and to have more balance in my life. So if I'm working, and I'll sometimes work like 12 hours a day, then I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to work 4 hours then, because I gave just finding the balance. Because if I often notice, if I am like 9 hours, or like doing the full days, then I'm not actually like fulfilled in it, and then I'm just doing what I did before leaving
Your job.
my corporate job. And so it's a constant reminder, but it's a beautiful one, because you are the creator of your own reality.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I wanted to jump on this podcast and speak to you from the day we met, because I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I'm so interested and intrigued, but I really need to like incorporate it into that whole entrepreneurial thing. But I really want to dive deep in, it's like holding myself back. I want to dive deep into the Akashic records. I really want to know like all the possible things, all the possibilities like that can possibly come up. What does that look like?
Yeah. So for me, I do it for my business, but then I also do it for, personally. But let's say for my business, I will. So what I did last December, and what I'm going to actually offer for free my clients, it'll be like a free downloadable thing of what the next year looks like for the collective energetically. But what I did was like tuned into the energy of my business. So my business is Dani Margeaux LLC. I was like, okay, January, what do you want to come through? And I just meditated on it and wrote down whatever wanted to come through. Okay, February, March, April, May. And it was really interesting because I hadn't started teaching Reiki yet. And now I'm a Reiki master and teacher, and I'm teaching beautiful students. But that hadn't even come into my mind, the last year. And then when December came and I was tuning in, I was like, whoa, they want me to be a Reiki teacher? Like, that's kind of crazy. I was a little scared, but I was like, okay, this is the year ahead. We'll see. We'll see. And they were right. Like, once May came, I started feeling it. I was like, whoa, you're right. I think this is what it wants to come through. And so for me, it's like getting ideas from what is divinely guided and what the collective needs. And because of that, there were clients that were waiting for me, that were ready to sign up. And if I hadn't tuned into the records, I wouldn't have known to do that. Or maybe I would have, in a different way, and found it out and thought of it on my own. But it enabled me to offer something that others wanted. And another thing, like pricing. So my readings right now are like 152, and I started off doing them for free. And so tuning into them, like, how much should I offer my readings? And then they were at first like, oh, just start at 111. I'm like, okay, beautiful. So I started at 111 for like a year. And then I started getting, as I would meditate, I got this like kind of feeling like, oh, something about my prices. So let me meditate on it. What's going on? Like, what needs to be told right now? And they're like, oh, it's time to increase your prices a little bit. Like, oh, okay. Like, how much should they be? Like 122. Okay, great. So it's like not only getting the structure or like of what needs to come next year, but also maybe pricing. And then like that download that came through last month about the multidimensional guide. I have no idea like what it's going to look like, but I know it's something that they want people to hear and see. And so what I'm going to do is, in several meditative sessions, I'll probably be like, so what's the first thing people need to hear? And I'll just channel the information, the copy. Like, all my Instagram posts are channeled, like what does
Wow.
someone need to hear right now? And then I write that down, and then the video that's coming through, I'll have my VA edit it, but like the idea came from them. So I do it on a daily as well. Like, so where should I focus my energy within my business today? And let's say they're like podcasts, like, okay, I'll reach out to podcasts. Or, the next week, let's say it's like doing Reiki lives for free on your Instagram. Okay, let's do it. And then because I'm doing it, like suddenly, like maybe I get like 5 followers usually, or 5 like, viewers. That day I'll have like 12 or 15, like, oh, you're right, the collective really wanted it. And it's
Wow.
really tuning in to your why. And for me, it's to help others. So that's why I connect to, the guides, because I'm like, well, what do people need to what do they need right now?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to challenge you, right? I've been asking all these questions, but I want you to find out what is it that anyone listening right now in this moment, or, this may be recorded. So, what will they need to hear? What will they need when they're listening to it? What will serve them best? And maybe two or three things that will two or three things that you think will serve them best. So we're gonna start there.
Beautiful. But I'm just going to tune in for a moment and see if they have anything. Okay, the first one they said is make a list of all your limitations of things that might be holding you back and work through those first.
Ooh.
So let's say I've only ever made 100,000 in my life. That's all I can ever make. Write that down and look at it and see, like, is that true? Can you know without a doubt of a fact that that's true? Can you make more? Have people in your family made more? Have other people made more? And so it's identifying limiting beliefs in your life and realizing that only you are putting and placing those upon yourself. The second is unconditional love can transmute everything. I am really moving into a space of love without conditions, and not just for close family members, but for every single person. And as I've been tuning into that frequency, I have not really attracted anyone with lower energy. It's been really beautiful. And of course, it starts with loving yourself, being able to receive and give love unconditionally, like without conditions. It's simple, yet it can be challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the third thing is any idea that comes in your mind, like a business idea or curiosity or, class or Akashic records, I believe it's divinely provided to you. And whether you can do it right now or later, write it down and lead with your curiosity. I really believe the path to your fullest soul fulfillment is through what inspires you and what, brings you joy. And so follow that trail.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Dani, thank you so much. Can you tell everyone where they can find you? I know you said Instagram. Let us know your handles, your website.
Yes. So I am on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and I'm at I am Dani Margeaux. And my website is www.iamdanimargeaux.com. It's spelled a little different, like the French way, Margeaux.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Dani. I appreciate it. I know everyone listening is going to appreciate it. Loved having you on.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. One tool that I can truly recommend on how you can organize and execute systems is Notion. Notion allows you to seamlessly get information out of your head and into a centralized, organized space. Whether it's documenting processes, managing projects, or brainstorming ideas, Notion can be your go-to platform. As a special offer to our listeners, you can get started with Notion using the link in the episode description. By using our affiliate link, you not only support our podcast, but also gain access to free templates designed to kickstart your journey with Notion. These templates are specifically crafted to help entrepreneurs streamline their workflows and boost productivity. To take advantage of this offer, simply visit the affiliate link below to sign up and explore the free templates available in the resource section. Whether you're a solopreneur, managing a team, Notion can be the game changer you've been looking for. Stay tuned for more episodes where we dive deep into strategies, tools that can empower you as an entrepreneur. And don't forget to subscribe to Entrepreneurial Truth so you never miss an episode filled with actionable advice and insights. Thank you once again for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovating and scaling your business with purpose. Thanks again.